Good morning, you guys. It's Virginia Schmidt from Divinity Ranch. How are you this morning? I've had an interesting morning, and since it's something that you wouldn't expect necessarily for someone to be learning from and feeling happy about, I wanted to share the story with you guys. Because I genuinely do feel gratitude, and I think you'll think it's crazy because what I feel gratitude for is getting kicked by a horse. I know, but hear me out. So I've grown up around horses my whole life on the Double Dock Ranch, and have been so fortunate in that, and definitely my soul chose this family for a reason. Like, animals are a big part of my soul's journey. So during all the time that I have grown up with horses, I only once have been kicked by a horse, really, like earnestly. I've been stepped on a few times. But a few years ago, I very earnestly got kicked. And it was very much, I don't know how aware I was at the time, but it was also in a situation of feeling the energy was a bit like aggressive, and it was a kind of serious kick. I had to get stitches. It was on my left inner thigh. But again, very fortunate, like really very low damage, just had to get some stitches and had a huge bruise and was very sore for like a couple weeks. Now, this morning, I was feeding some horses that we have, and I haven't been feeding as much lately. My dear friend and compañera Meredith has taken over a lot of the day-to-day operations at the barn, like feeding morning and evening. And so I was feeding this morning, and I was so excited to be around some of these horses and putting them out in their little paddock where they all eat together. Just beautiful morning here, feeling my energy, everything amazing, and walking around, laying my hands on each of them, just gently and intentionally connecting with each of them and feeling that magic. And just like in this place of feeling so calm and my energy so grounded, almost like too calm, maybe in a way, because I teach people all the time. One of the most important things to understand about horses and going behind them is that normally, if you're going to get kicked, it would be because you surprised them. Like, the worst thing that could happen is you're behind a horse, they didn't realize you were there, and it's an impulse thing. And so you always want to let them know you're there with your voice or even with your energy, but preferably with your voice and kind of something that's going to let them know, or coming at them from the side. Horses are prey animals, so they more have 360-degree vision around them, and they have two blind spots, one directly in front of them and one directly behind them. So to go right up behind a horse and touch them, and maybe they didn't realize you were there, not a good idea. I teach people that, I'm aware of that, but I was in kind of this like, if it's all about balance, I was almost in too tranquil of a state for this like very earthy, timely situation I'm in of being around, five or so horses at liberty as they're eating, but very safe, very great relationships with them. But as I'm walking back to our little Kubota, little side-by-side, and I'm touching a couple of them, and I go by one of them and go to touch him, but I'm pretty much, and just gently, as I'm gently in this low, hardly can detect me energy walking by, reach out and touch his rump as I'm walking by. And, it was all a bit of a blur, but as I think about it, I was pretty much in his blind spot. And so he just reacted and kicked out at me. But this is why I'm so thankful. Like, I'm almost going to cry because this is so sweet. Like, there was nothing aggressive about it. I genuinely surprised him. He didn't, I could feel the energy of it so much more too, which makes me really thankful for being aware of that instead of running on those programs where we think we know and we get mad at horses. Just such deep respect for horses in general, for being, having evolved as prey animals that allow we predators to have relationships with them in general, and being really forgiving of those times of, just miscommunication. And that's what it was. And it was a mistake on my part. And I immediately felt, oh no, I scared him. And in that moment, he kicked out. But okay, so this is a very large horse. Horses are large in general, and this is an especially large horse. He could have killed me with a kick, right? He could have crushed any bone. He definitely could have done some damage. But that wasn't the kind of kick. It was a reflex, but it was a gentle reaction of like, that scared me. I'm gonna go out and see what that was, because, you know, that wasn't okay. And I'm like, what was that? But it also was not aggressive, and it wasn't hard. It was basically the gentlest way in which you could possibly get kicked. And remember the respect for these animals and the gratitude for this relationship, and to not take it for granted. So I just want to show you guys, like, it's basically just, I mean, it's really just the top of the skin that was taken off. I can use my thumb. Like, I think it's going to be a little sore and swollen, but you can see, like, it could have been, probably a little bruise is going to form. But that was from a huge horse kicking me. Like, his hoof, which thankfully didn't have a shoe on it, also barely grazed my thumb, like almost just kind of cut it, really. And it's not a deep cut. I've put the skin back over it, and I'm going to put some antibiotic ointment and a Band-Aid on, and I washed it out and everything. But it's not even a deep cut. Like, this is from a, you know, close to 2,000 pound horse. No, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 pounds kicking me. And, you know, the energy, even during all of it, never got like up. Like, also in the moment where he and I kind of both realized what had happened, it was just like we went to release. And I immediately just, and all was well, and all was calm, and no one was disturbed, and everyone was still eating. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry I scared you, bud. So also I had these gloves on, my work gloves. So that like protected me as well. This would have probably been quite a bit worse if I hadn't had gloves on, you know, just as far as the skin breakage goes. And so I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to learn a lesson while it's easy. Like, again, so how I could go away from this, right? Isn't this a beautiful locally made mug from Cody Coffee here in Cody, Wyoming? I love Cody Coffee personally. This is not an ad spot, but a local sculptor makes these. I just love these. And so I could have gone away from that mad at the horse. I could have instantly gotten furious at the horse, right? And hit him and berated him and said, how dare he? And, you know, he did that, like, and sort of come at it from that kind of place, which I do feel like I was very angry at the horse that kicked me before. A few years ago, and he was one, his name was Sundance. And I think a lot of that probably came from my misunderstanding of how to speak horse. And he was probably really frustrated. Maybe he was angry, but I probably didn't understand the full context. And it didn't even occur to me for a second to get my energy worked up back there with what happened this morning. I immediately realized it, like, even as he was kicking me, which basically happened very fast, I was like, wow, that was dumb. Like, of me, like, what are you doing? Like, you're like, oh, I'm so like one with the earth, walking up right behind a horse and touching him. Like, he genuinely didn't know you were there. And he gave you a very gentle, you guys, look at this, you know, in the context of my body with an animal that big, a very gentle reminder that totally came from the heart, as far as like, it wasn't even to teach me a lesson. It was just, that scared me, but he also has done a lot of beautiful relationship work with not being as reactive, like as the first go-to. So it scared him, but it was like a soft and gentle kick. And so the beautiful, like, I know it sounded crazy to begin this by saying, I'm grateful I got kicked by a horse, but it's that beauty of the chance to learn while it's still easy, instead of getting mad and putting the blame on a horse and something else. And it's like, all right, well, how big of something do you need to see that this is also something that you have responsibility in? And so you probably won't watch too many videos about people being thankful for being kicked by horses, but that's what we're all here doing, is recognizing the blessing and the lesson in these tests and in these things that come into our lives to help us grow, and to remind us to be grateful and to be respectful and to be truly present right? Respectfully present in a balanced way. Like, I was very present back there, but I was almost too ethereal in my energy. I did feel really grounded as well, but I think true grounding in that kind of earthy situation also calls for an earthy awareness that is like a respect of the earthly powers, like the power of animals and the land and the water. So I'll think more on that. I would love to hear stories here of, like, you know, a funny one opener of I'm grateful for, and something that you would never think to be grateful for, and whether it's something that took you years to realize you were grateful for, or whether it's something that in that moment you know, blessedly realized that you were grateful to be taught a lesson in such a small way and to learn it then. So I look forward to you guys' comments. I think this is a really beautiful practice in transmutation and gratitude and finding the good amidst what could have been really, really bad. And even just being thankful for that good, like, okay, gotcha. So I want to just show you guys, it's a beautiful day here in Cody. There's Peter, just looking out. Much love to you all. I'm going to go wash this baby one more time and put a Band-Aid and some antibiotic ointment on. Love y'all.